Hi, I'm Dave Kassler, amateur radio call sign KE0OG, and welcome to Augie's All the World Around. Augies are the subscribers, and we've got nearly 38,000 subscribers around the world. About 75% are in the United States, and the rest are scattered mostly in English-speaking countries around the world. Welcome to all of you from the wilds of Colorado. And so what we're going to do is answer viewer questions. If you would like to submit a question, submit it to hamradioanswers@gmail.com. That's hamradioanswers@gmail.com. Or there's a form you can fill out on the website under ke0og.net/ask-dave. Either way, we'll get the question and try and get it in one of these shows and see what we can do to answer your question. So what have we got?
All right, so Adam, call sign N1APB, is wondering about a virus on the Baofeng RD5R.
Oh, he's pointing out that some people have run into a virus on the software that a person might download from the Radioddity website. The RD5R is made by Baofeng for Radioddity. And Radioddity has the support software on its site. You're not going to see it on Chirp. Normally Baofeng sends you to Chirp, but Chirp does not handle the digital radios very well, and not the DMR radios, so you have to go to Radioddity. If your system says you are downloading something with a virus in it, be very careful and heed those warnings. Do not proceed. If somehow it's gotten a virus in it, your virus protection software should tell you, do not download this. And if that is the case, you'll have to pester Radioddity to get the right one up there. Certainly the software I have from them when I did the review of the RD5R did not have that problem. So this is a problem with anybody's website. Some hacker can get in there and do malicious stuff like insert viruses and essential software and so on. So please be careful, and you can find this with anything. If your system says, hey, you should not download this because it has a virus, pay heed. Be safe on the internet. It's a wild and woolly place. Okay, Trevor, what's next?
All right, Robert, call sign K1RSK, is wondering about connecting his Yaesu FT891 transceiver to an SDR play.
Okay, he's planning on getting the FT891 transceiver and connect it to SDR play for the SDR receiver. Okay, so I did a video on the 1708 SDR transmit receive switch. There is a B model out on that, which is the one I would order. It's a little more sophisticated than the A model. It's also $20 more. Now he access on his Yaesu FT891. He says there's a DIN plug. That's DIN is a standard for plugs, and that is the way he would access his push-to-talk and ground pins, and then connect that to the push-to-talk on the MFJ unit. Yes, that is what you would do. Finally, you talked about different versions. If I were to get the B version, would you hook up the PTT output in the 891? Yes. Not to the switch that's labeled control. There's a PTT out that is used when you connect the radio to an amplifier. That's the one that you want to use. So go look at the page in the manual that talks about how to connect it to an amplifier, and look for the push-to-talk line that goes from the radio to the amplifier. And he says he loves our channel, and please keep up the work. We certainly will keep that up. Thank you very much for the kind words.
Pat asks about rig control and software decode for the ICOM IC7200.
Okay, can you use a Raspberry Pi, the 3, and a smartphone or a tablet to do rig control and software decode for digital modes on an ICOM 7200? Yes, you can. That is something I would like to do. I have not figured it out, but there is software for it. The Raspberry Pi is a Linux-based device, so you've got to deal with all the software stuff for doing that. And then for your smartphone, you're going to have to find software. It's out there. I've not looked at it, but it is out there that will allow you to do the digital modes on there. So give that a try. You ought to make your own video on how that works. I think that would be of interest to a great many people.
All right, Simon asks about an LMR 400 cable type.
Oh boy. He's very interested in the LMR 400 cable. I'm a little sour on it right now. It's awfully hard to use. I do a lot of ARES types events where that's amateur radio emergency service, by the way. Type events where we set up a portable mast in the countryside and normally use RG213, which is what I suggest you stick with. Is LMR 400 with its solid center conductor going to hold up if it's coiled up and uncoiled over and over again? No. It will not like that. Is it a necessity to use the UltraFlex? Yes, but you'll find that is very expensive. The difference between RG213 and LMR 400 in terms of performance and losses is not big enough to warrant spending the money to go away from RG213. RG213 is great cable. It's quite flexible. I would suggest using that. I bought a 500-foot roll of Times Microwave LMR 400 cable, and it is a bear to put connectors on. I've succeeded and I use it and so on, but after I use up that 500-foot roll, I'm going to RG213. It's just so much easier to use, but people like certain kinds of cable. But yeah, you don't, the LMR 400 is designed for microwave work where like it's on a tower. So you're going to put that thing up there and leave it. And that cable is tied down really well for wind and stuff like that. It's not designed for portable use. Hope that helps.
Barry asks about plug adapters.
Great Morse overview refresher. One of the challenges is that there are far fewer quarter-inch plugs and more eighth-inch plugs, and there are adapters for that. A lot of the Morse key plugs these days are stereo, so that there's, you know, tip goes to one side of the paddles, the ring goes to the other side, and the sleeve is usually ground. And you can get adapters that will go stereo eighth-inch to stereo quarter-inch, and there are adapters that will go stereo quarter-inch down to eighth-inch. As a matter of fact, we're using one of those adapters now. Been getting himself, I have quarter-inch, the way I have my straight key connected is a little phono plug right on the key. It's on a wooden base about this size right here. And I have different cables. I have a cable that goes to a QRP rig that's phono to phono. And I have another cable that's phono to quarter-inch stereo that I use with my Yaesu FTDX 3000. So multiple cables is one idea, multiple adapters is another. It's a pain because there is no standardization. The smaller radios will all use eighth-inch. A lot of the QRP radios these days use eighth-inch for keying. And one of the problems is that different manufacturers switch tip and ring as to which one is which side of the paddle. Usually in the menu, there's a place where you can reverse that assignment so you get them at least consistent across all your radios. Now, good luck with the Morse code. Persevere with that. That's great.
Richard asks about watt meter calibration.
Is there a way of measuring voltage drop across the dummy load to determine wattage? Yes, absolutely. Use the AC voltmeter that you have, and because that rectifies the signal to go to the meter. E squared over R will give you power. R is usually 50 ohms. Okay, E squared is the voltage in volts squared divided by R in power, and it's usually not dreadfully high, but yes, you can do that. But now you're bound by the power of the meter, which is really designed for 60 hertz AC. And it will work at RF, and you'll get yet another measurement of it. You say you have multiple watt meters, they all read more than 25% difference between one and another. Which one is correct? The answer is, who knows? Average them. If you've got a more expensive watt meter, give that a little bit more weight in the average. But that's the best thing to do. The bird watt meters are generally known for high accuracy. So just on single sideband, it doesn't matter much anyway, because the signal varies in voltage so much. If you are putting out CW or something like that, you can usually get a fair idea of the wattage, but that plus or minus 25% is not abnormal.
All right, Bill, call sign KN4BNS, is wondering about PACTOR.
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 Okay, been looking at videos for extra. In lesson 8.2, I talk about Pactor and mention it needs an expensive modem for Pactor 2, 3, or 4. Pactor 4 has not been approved yet. The league is trying to get that approved. It's a wider bandwidth mode. Very popular with sailors for weather fax, sometimes called WeFax, and emails. Yes, it is. Now, sailors, if you've got a boat, you've usually got some money. And so the fact that that modem costs $1,000 or more, $1,200, is not a barrier to these people. It would be a barrier to me, I'll tell you that. Now, these email and WeFax capabilities and so on are open to all. Anybody can do it if you go ahead and get that modem. Now, I have been told that if you have one of the older modems that's just Pactor 1, you can still get in to those. The speed will be a lot less, so you're probably not going to be wanting to download pictures like WeatherFax and so on, but certainly emails you can do. You can still get in there to that system. It's sometimes called WinLink or WinMore. There are different ways of doing it. So give it a try. Let me know how it comes out. I've never tried to make that work.
All right, Barrett, call sign W0OSB, has a question about CTCSS and DCS.
Continuous Tone Coded Squelch System is CTCSS. DCS is Digital Control System. And the difference is that in the United States, we almost exclusively use CTCSS. And the reason for this, if you put up a repeater and it just listens on one channel and then will retransmit that on another, if you get spurious noise on that frequency, it'll happily repeat that. So what they do is that they say, okay, all you guys have to have a subtone, say of 107.2 hertz, and if you have that subtone, the repeater will open up. If it doesn't sense that subtone, it won't open up. And this drastically reduces the amount of spurious responses. So it's almost always required only on transmit. Once in a blue moon, the repeater will put out a tone so that if you're listening and have that problem, you can set your radio to listen for that tone. Most repeaters do not push that tone all the way through the system. It comes into the repeater, it's filtered out, it does not go out on the audio. So you need to have your radio set up to put the tone out, the CTCSS tone, at the right frequency, and and then not demanded on receive, so it's just on transmit only. It's a little bit, now there's tone, squelch, reverse, all of these kinds of things like that. It's, can these features be used on simplex? Yes, they can. You can set it up so that you got a buddy. I noticed this when I was working with the youth group in Montrose. There was a couple guys who wanted to talk to each other each night, and so they put the tone-coded squelch both ways in their system. So the receiver had to hear it, and the transmitter had to send it in order for that link to work. And then that way they didn't get other people coming into their link or trying to interrupt it. They were way off in some weird simplex frequency, and it was just a way that they could kind of keep that somewhat private. Although, of course, anybody can listen to it. Amateur radio does not allow in the United States any kind of encryption. So I hope that answers your question. In the US, you'll see mostly CTCSS on analog repeaters. And that concludes another episode of Ask Dave. Thank you for tuning in. And be sure to check out dcastler.com/support, because that shows how you can participate in making this a viewer-supported channel. Until next time, 73.